Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Cincinnati-based illustrator John McCoy, and if you're new to the channel, I am a illustrator, professional illustrator. I've worked in the Cincinnati area for over 10 years, creating murals and teaching art. And we are doing this series. This is supplementary material for the series, Learning to Draw with Andrew Loomis' Fun with a Pencil. So if you've been watching that, I've received a few comments on the videos where people are asking, they understand the basic principles of the Block ball and of even the divided ball and plane method. However, they're having a little bit of difficulty or a challenge understanding how the sizes of things change when they wrap around a three-dimensional ball. So I just want to go back to page 11 real quick and read what Andrew Loomis says here. He says, instead of line, okay, line is you draw this little line on a piece of paper. Instead of line, we shall think in terms of concrete and tangible form and proceed as if we were handling lumps of clay. You can appreciate the value of such a method, for you know the fundamentals even before you start. So he says all kinds of things like you're familiar with different shapes since you were a kid, basically. Take a look at this. We have a quarter. And if we focus on that quarter here, you can see that if I alter that quarter based off the drawing in the back, that it does change based off of how it is positioned. This is a perspective, a linear perspective diagram here that I've drawn before we get into all these other fancy goodies. This is 2-point perspective, and I've drawn a cube in 2-point perspective following the lines of perspective. And you can see, of course, how this would represent a square. This would represent a square, but because of perspective and the way it's seen, it shifts and changes. And there we have the beginning of understanding the answer to that question. How do you wrap features around a three-dimensional form, and how do they change based off of the angle you're viewing them? I created this little fun thing as an example to understand that I've drawn a circle here, 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 here. Depending on how you look at it, very similar to the quarter, it's changing based off how you're looking at it. If I was to draw this, this begins to answer your question, doesn't it? Your question was, how do I know how big this feature is that he's talking about when it's drawn on the side? Well, depending upon the angle, that feature, its width, its actual width to us on the piece of paper that we're drawing on, changes. You can see it by comparison. It is very short here compared to this circle, but if I tilt this, the opposite happens. This one is now short compared to this. So it all depends on how you're constructing your Block ball. Or if you're doing the divided ball and plane method, if you're following along with our video, we're getting more advanced now. We're talking about the divided ball and plane method. This is a replica of a human skull, much smaller, of course. That's obvious to most people. And we can understand now, looking at the divided ball and plane method, what Andrew Loomis is talking about, how basically the human head is a ball, but it has something added to it and has something added to it in the back, which he talks about. You can check that out in that video. But here I created something that we can play around on, we can draw on to understand how these features wrap. What we're gonna do, and I think would be the most productive, so that this not only addresses the questions that I received in comments, but also helps those who are following the divided ball and plane method, is if we follow and create the lines that we talked about in the divided ball and plane method. So if we create the midline, right here, the middle line, that middle line goes all the way up. Styrofoam, I also learned, is not the easiest texture to draw on. So we've already seen how that line looks like what we've drawn with the divided ball and plane method. Pretty cool. And now we draw the brow line, which should be right in the middle of our sphere, which I tried to put this plane more or less right in the middle here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. And I remember somebody asked, how big should this appear? Well, if we just trace it, this is that ellipse that we were seeing. Right now, directly in front of us, it appears more as a circle. When we turn it, it becomes an ellipse. Same thing from this side. Let's just finish this out. A lot of it becomes with practice and eyeballing it. And I'm not trying to focus on perfectionism here. So here we have, let's draw this out. This is the jaw line here. Okay. Now we have this ear line, which should be parallel to the front of the face. Goes right in the middle of this sphere, or I'm sorry, this circle. The same on this side. That becomes the ear line, and these two connect. And there we have it. Now we're going to draw the hairline. Now the hairline happens pretty much in the midpoint between the top axis and the brow line. Now we can see, we have this privilege, like Andrew Loomis talked about, where if we are thinking in terms of a three-dimensional shape, and this is clay, we can examine at what point does that go into. Here, pretend that this is a drawing. I have to guess at what point I'm going to put this on there. But with three-dimensional, I can see the line from above, and I can find the midpoint. And that becomes the hairline. Now you can see, okay, why is this line smaller than this one? Because of perspective. Now we're gonna draw the nose one, which, like we said, goes down to, we have 4 lines. 1 hairline from the top of the axis to the hairline, from the hairline to the brow, from the brow line to the nose, and from the nose to the chin. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So this should be the nose line approximately. You notice how this I'm seeing now it's not quite perfect, but it's very close to being a working. You can see where this line wraps around. Okay. But basically this serves to show us how features transform because of linear perspective. And probably at some point in the future, I'm going to make a video on linear perspective. Don't ask me just yet. But that's just so we can focus on this, on the learning to draw with Andrew Loomis's fun with a pencil. But this shows how, based off of how you construct this head, if you draw it like this, and you draw it like this, it changes and it determines how. And the only answer you're going to be able to get from this, you can make a model like this if you'd like. But the thing that's really going to help you is drawing a lot, practicing a lot, drawing many different iterations, and seeing how features change based off of that. But there's no real mathematical, easy way to say this is always going to be this size or this is always going to be this size, because it depends on the positioning of the head. How tall should this be? It's based off of how you're drawing the head. If you draw it from closer, notice how this got a lot bigger because of distortion. That happens in real life too. But if you're further back, it becomes a proportionally similar. This length right here of the ear line appears larger because it's more proportional the further back it is. If you move really close or you put the angle like this is distortion, this is perspective distortion, and also lens distortion, which happens to us really when we're looking at something very close. It appears distorted. We can see how the fingers, the tip of the fingers look larger than the back because of because of foreshortening, because of the reduction of size of something. Look at how big this looks compared to this. That's all perspective. Everything depends on perspective. But here you can see how those features change. Put it into practice with a little bit of drawing. As long as we follow Andrew Loomis's methods, we should be okay. But we determine what perspective we're looking at by the positioning we put the midline. Once we start to construct our lines, we don't need a three-dimensional object like I showed you. This might be helpful, that three-dimensional object might be helpful, but as soon as we draw the midline and we start following his techniques, we draw that, then we can see how it has to follow the same perspective. And how do we do that? It just comes with practice, a lot of practice. That's really, I would like to say I had an easy way to solve all your problems, but it's going to require a lot of practice. That's one angle. Here we could draw from another angle. If the midline is looking at us directly, then it becomes a shape like this, where we shave off that little shape and then we drop this down, and that becomes our angle. Similarly, we could also draw the same sphere and have the midline coming around from this side, and we could have that brow line going around like that. Then we would have to shave off this, we drop that down, that would become our angle. So it really all depends on how you're looking at it, but one thing that may help you is looking at pictures of, maybe take reference photos of your own face in different positions and practice with that. But the more you study real life, and this method is very solid. You can base off of how you're constructing the lines, but the more you base off of real life and the more you draw, the more you learn how things change. The ear, for instance, on this one is going to appear something like this. However, on this one, similar to that quarter that we talked about, so this, in this case, with this one, it's like this. But when we tilt the head this way, it's more like this. It has some thickness on this side. This is a quarter, it's flat. Your ear's not this flat. But the same thing is happening as we tilt the head. As we tilt the head, it's more like this. A healthy combination of drawing from life and learning this method. This method helps us to recognize how linear perspective is applied to the face. How the lines are consistent. We're always going to have a brow line. We're always going to have a brow line, depending on where the face is. You could even make this so extreme that you're looking as if like this. You're looking like this. And in that case, where is the brow line? Right here. Barely even visible on this ball. Then we shave that off. We shave that off. Where is the nose line? It's so foreshortened that it's like right here. Everything is so foreshortened. The chin line becomes like this. And so the entirety of the face is all found right in this small section of the sphere. And the rest of it is just looking at the bottom. So no matter how you look at it, it is going to change how these features. If we look at these features, another way to look at it, if an eye is a quarter, when that changes, it changes in perspective based off of how you're looking at it. So everything, this is happening in every form. It's just that we're trying to learn how to draw the head. So this is always happening in nature. This quarter is the same as this, or this, and it orbits around the sphere. I hope that helps. I've really enjoyed doing this video, and I hope that's helped. If you have any more questions, please, of course, I'm here for you. Just ask in the comments, and I will be happy to help. Say hello to the little succulent plant. It's a beauty. God bless you guys. Thanks for watching.